Welcome to Marketing MASH, brought to you by themarketingscope.com.
So welcome to the Marketing MASH. I'm Eric Vidal, my co-host Shelly Kramer. Today we have a special guest, Mani Iyer, the CEO and founder of Kwanzoo. And first of all, account-based marketing, big hot topic. Explain what account-based marketing is, explain what Kwanzoo does, and kind of what your role is. Obviously, you're CEO, so you manage everything, but give us a quick introduction, Mani.
Absolutely. And first, Eric and Shelly, thank you for having me on your show. It's a great format. So first up, Kwanzoo, we provide what we call an all-in-one platform for B2B retargeting, account-based marketing, personalized display. We operate to mid to large-size companies, B2B companies, to run a range of display programs. If you look at what's been going on in B2B marketing in general, traditionally sales has been selling into accounts and selling into teams of buyers and influencers. It's typically a team decision, as we all know. But marketing tech, if you think about marketing automation, that really caught on in the last few years, and you have so many B2B companies adopting marketing automation platforms such as Oracle Eloqua or Marketo, Silverpop, and similar. That has been more lead-centric. So it's all been about getting people to fill out forms and leads and so on. But there's been this huge, misalignment or lack of alignment between the way marketing has been approaching their jobs.
Wait,
and then what
misalignment? Really?
And well, marketing has been thinking they're doing their job, just generating tons and tons of leads, but then sales has been picking and choosing, here's kind of the low-hanging fruit, here are the ones I want to go after. So I think maybe, and look, the concept of account-based marketing is not new. There's an organization called ITSMA that has been talking about account-based marketing at the very high end, which is really big companies doing literally one-to-one marketing into their top 30 accounts, top 50 accounts. What has happened is in the last year, ABM suddenly has caught on in that, we had one company, demand-based, they've been talking about ABM for some time, more around, on websites, being able to personalize accounts, and then and then they also do a little bit on the advertising side. But it has started to become more of a category in that you have a slew of companies that are starting to offer different pieces of the puzzle around ABM or account-based marketing.
Why is that? Because, like you said, account-based marketing has been around for a long time. Well, but it's been really hot the last 12 to 16 months.
Right, the technology has caught on. I think part of it is the tech has caught on. A number of new players have jumped into the game. And ABM, instead of being a high-end activity for really big companies to focus on their big accounts, it's become more a scale activity, meaning more and more marketers are able to go in as small teams, and now they're able to hit literally thousands of accounts with much more personalized messages, offers, content, and they're able to take a more account-centric view. So instead of thinking about, hey, here are all the leads coming in, here are the leads I'm getting into my website, they're able to now think about, let's start with accounts first. Let's start with who sales is going after. Let's figure out how to support sales better in terms of all the marketing programs and tactics we're going to deploy. And now, instead of having a lead or a contact-based view of the world, they're trying to have an account-based view.
Yeah, it does.
Does that make sense?
How do these align with account-based sales development?
Yeah, so that's interesting because what's happening is, again, the whole discipline of B2B marketing is now getting broken up. So if you look at the sales side of the house, you've got account executives. They kind of have the ownership into sets of accounts that they try to take it all the way from kind of a mid-stage, if you will, all the way it gets qualified and sales accepted and try to take it to a close opportunity and then a closed deal. And B2B companies starting to specialize with creating, the sales development teams. And then they're also setting up these market research teams. And so what you're seeing is sales development is becoming its own function. And you have a whole set of companies coming up, like a Sales Loft and some of the others, that are really helping SDRs and inside sales teams warm up and really qualify the accounts before they get handed off to the AE. It's further down in the funnel to basically try to go and close, right? Now, what's happening is even traditional SDR tools were, again, really all about just sending out messages to certain contacts and accounts and so on. Now you have some newer companies coming along saying, you know what, even that should be more account-centric than what it is. And that's why they're starting to call it account-based sales development. You can start personalizing the messages more and more. You have more template-based strategies. You can actually have different ways of grouping different sets of accounts and then dealing with them on the sales side. So that's what sales is doing into the sales development, making it more account-based. And on the marketing side, as I said, marketers are reevaluating all of their marketing programs and seeing how does it fit in with our target account set. And that's a big change that's happening from a lead-centric approach to a marketing.
Wait. Say that last part again, Manny.
The last part saying, stop thinking about leads and leads and leads. It's not about quantity of leads. It's about quality. It's about relevance of these leads. Are they the kind of leads that really fit into the target account set that our sales
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good
point,
point, Shelly. I'm glad you had to repeat that, because one of the challenges I've seen and heard over the last few years, I mean, I go back about 4 or 5 years ago, even in an organization I was at, some of the marketers were very hesitant because, you know, it was all about the big numbers, top of the funnel. Oh God, what? Only target these 20 accounts? But, you know, you got to do the math. Those 20 accounts currently bring in $500,000 each. And we can, just by contacting, connecting with them better, we can increase it by 30% per account. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think too, where I see the problem with this, and Manny, it'd be interesting to get your input. You know, as a brand strategist, I have clients who, you know, we went down a path with a lot of what we were doing as marketers, and, you know, everybody's on social media. We need to be on social media. And now everybody's doing content. So we need to create content regardless of what kind of content it is. And then that morphed to leads. Bring me the leads. I got to have the leads. Everything we do has to be tied to leads. And so marketers are scurrying around trying to do these things as dictated maybe by senior leadership or try to serve the sales team. But a lot of times what the problem is that if you're charged with bringing me the leads, that assumes a lot of things that aren't necessarily the case. Maybe marketers don't really understand the difference between those leads the way that they could. But maybe there's no budget that's been allocated. Maybe it's just because I will tell you that we've done programs with clients who, you know, we did a program for a client that wanted to do a podcast to generate leads. And there was no real rhyme or reason behind that, although one would not typically think that of a podcast as being a lead gen vehicle. But the client didn't even want to talk about that. They didn't want to talk about the kind of leads they would get as a result of this. We didn't qualify any kind of what kind of leads we were looking for. They really wanted to do a podcast, and they really needed it to be tied to lead gen. So we did a podcast that was lead gen initiative, and actually we brought them leads, Eric. But I think sometimes there's such a lack of knowledge on this front. There's two problems: the lack of knowledge, and then the lack of the importance of allocating a budget to a platform like what you sell.
Well, and let me jump in there real fast. What you just said, yes, and there's a lack of understanding that this budget's going to be different. And so, you know, your cost per lead is not 22 or 34 or something like that. Your cost per opportunity is not going to be 78, right, Manny? I mean, it's a lot more because it's hyper targeted and it's a smaller universe. So it's going to be harder. Is that safe to say?
Yeah. So I think you're right. See, I think fundamentally, it's a big mind shift. It's a mind change that marketers are having to deal with. But you're right, from top management, there's been a lot of pressure for them to produce leads. Now it's less about the leads, it's more about engagement. It's about, are you engaging the right, buyers, influencers, decision makers at the right accounts? who are the real targets? Who are the folks who are at the end of the day going to buy your product or service or solution? And it's not about getting them to fill out a form every time you talk to them.
A really long form.
Yeah, and that too, right? So it's really about, do you know them? Are they already in your marketing database? Yes. Stop chasing them to fill out yet another form, right? It's really about, can you now get them to engage on a series of content from you? You know, could be an analyst report, could be a white paper, a webinar, what have you. And based on buyer stage, are they early stage, mid stage, late stage? Where are they in the buying cycle, buying funnel, demand funnel? And a bunch of things have changed here. And like to your point, Eric, it's about saying, you know what? That deal at the end of the day is worth $30,000 to us as a company. So anywhere, what we're saying with ABM is anytime the ACV, the annual contract value, is like, say, around $10,000 and up, the economics are there. The economics make sense to bring in technology to support an ABM type of approach. And then they can start thinking about scaling it to, as I said, hundreds to thousands of accounts. And then they're able to then think about the fact, since I'm going to make $30,000 in the first year contract, it means maybe 1 in 3 is going to convert off my opportunities. If I can generate 3 opportunities, 4 opportunities, and one of them converts, that means I can spend, say, $2,000 to $3,000 for each of those kind of qualified opportunities that my sales team is going to go try to close. So you're right. So that's a different way of looking at it than all the focus being on, let me cut my cost per lead down to $30 or $50.
Yeah, it does.
And so it's a shift in focus. Make sense? It's a whole different way with ABM. And the focus from leads has gone to engagement. Can I engage the people? Can I have multiple points of engagement? And then can I stop thinking of marketing qualified leads? There's a new notion of marketing qualified accounts that marketing can now send over to sales.
Shelly mentioned some of the things that a marketer is thinking about, some of the challenges. And so what kind of advice would you give for a B2B marketer to get started who's currently doing the traditional content marketing, traditional lead gen, going after a larger audience, and now they want to start to look at this next quarter or in Q3, maybe doing account-based marketing? How can they get started? Obviously, one is leverage a platform like yours, but what should they be thinking about? How do they get started on this?
Yeah, so literally, there's some formation of some core ideas that we're seeing. That's literally a process for ABM that is starting to take effect among a lot of companies that are jumping onto ABM, right? So I'll just reel that out for you. So, right, the first step is a lot of these companies, they realize the first thing they got to figure out is account selection and coverage. Let's figure out.
Hey, hold on. Let's stop right there for 1 second, because I know a little bit about the process. That sometimes you get held up there, right? I mean, I take it you've been there, right? You get sales and marketing. Next thing you know, you're sitting there going, I'm just trying to kick this program off. And 3 weeks later, they finally arm wrestle over what those accounts are, right? No, that's
absolutely. I mean, I didn't say it was easy, but I'm. So account selection is first thing they need to get their hands around, and then a way to kind of categorize, segment those accounts. Are these tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 type of accounts? What are the accounts by different territories, based on where their salespeople are, what their territories are? What's the account assigned to different sales reps, account execs? So the account selection is one, and then coverage, meaning what kind of marketing programs do we have in place today to help our sales team, enable our sales team to get into all those key accounts? What are the different range of programs? They could be programs which are live events, could be offline programs, could be direct mail programs for big accounts that support online tactics, be it, obviously you're going to have your emails that are going out, different kind of nurture emails. You're going to have display ads, certainly in areas where we help at Kwanzoo, and some others do too, right? So you can have all these different tactics and just figuring out coverage. What kind of coverage do you have? What's missing? What the gaps are, and how to prioritize that. From there, you've got to do things like contact discovery. Meaning, do you have the set of contacts to go after in these accounts? If you don't, you got to plug the gap, fill the gap. You got to go and think about what are the messages? What are the messages you're going to put out there for each category or sets of accounts. What kind of content do you need? You've got to think about the interactions you're going to have with these accounts, with these different channels. You got to capture all that data and activity back in. And then you've got to obviously then look at orchestration. What is the next action? Okay, this account, these are the people we hit. What's the next message, next offer, next action we need to get in front of them? And then, of course, there's the measurement piece. Are we measuring effectiveness? Are we hitting all the right metrics? And are we feeding all that data back in so that the next cycle goes even better? Now, that's, of course, feels like a lot of stuff, but my point is you got to break it down. If you really want to get started, we're finding that people typically are picking maybe a subset of the entire account set, maybe pick the top 200, top 300.
I got to figure when you're going through that process,
from there.
You and your team with a client, that marketer, that B2B marketer, there's a lot of light bulbs that go off during that process. And there's probably a lot of education where they're realizing we don't have the right message and the right content for that segment or that audience. And there's probably, there's a lot of learning through that process. And I got to figure after that process, they're a lot smarter and they realize what they do, what they're good at and what they're not good at.
Absolutely. If you look at, as you said, the last 6 to 9 months, a lot of the conversation has been about what is ABM, right? And so what we are seeing is, in fact, we just kicked off a series of webinars and blog posts and everything else around what we're calling it ABM done right. So it's about, hey, look, if you get the basics of what ABM is, let's now start talking about, let's move the conversation to how can you do it right? So we find, as you just said, it is quite a bit of sharing of knowledge, sharing of best practices, sharing of insights.
So
and learning.
I got a question. So what ABM tactics or tactics are working well right now, or for some B2B clients of yours, or what are some tactics that are getting them some quick wins, if you will?
Yeah. So look, I think depends on the company, depends on the scale at which they operate. So we need to then talk about, okay, is it a young company that's just really hungry or really trying to get go after new logos, right? So if it's new logo, if your goal is new logos, bringing on new clients, then it becomes more of a prospecting campaign, right? And prospecting, you can obviously do a few things, and here's where we come in, certainly, and help our customers in a few areas. One is, as you know, you got to figure out how to make sure the right accounts are coming to your website. So which is, and then you got to figure out, are you then retargeting and messaging right to the people coming to your site and bouncing away? So we do B2B retargeting with an account lens to it. That's something Kwanzoo is able to help them with. Second thing beyond that is proactively reaching out, meaning they didn't show up. Then going out there, getting in front of them, putting the right content offer messages to people at your target account. So that's what we call ABM advertising, right? Beyond what we do, obviously there are companies which are the predictive analytics, predictive tool companies. As they go into larger accounts, they help the companies prioritize. So when you have a list of 3,000 accounts, how does the sales team know who to go after? Which one should they be focusing on today, this week, this month, right? So they use things such as intent data that's from out on the public web or from different B2B publishers. They go and look at different signals all across the web. They use all of that information to build what's called prioritized account lists. Examples of companies that do that would be 6 Sense, Infer. There's a bunch of other companies that do that kind of thing. So predictive is an area where they're seeing some activity around account-based marketing, which is more of a data play. You've got guys like us helping on the display side. You've got companies like Triblio that they help on personalizing website offers and content, and Marketo has a product called RTP. You're familiar with that. So the point is, depending on what problem they want to solve, you've got different companies trying to tackle it in different areas. And then the customer ends up having to prioritize and decide where do they want to invest first.
It does. Shelly, do you have a question? Because I have one right now.
No, go right ahead.
Well, so let's go back to how do you measure success with some of these programs? And can you give a couple examples of some real ROI that a client saw within the first few months or so?
Absolutely. So I'll give you specific examples. This is a case of, a couple of our clients and the kind of measures that they're looking at, right? One is around being able to send emails, nurture emails into a set of target accounts, and then also serving display ads to those same accounts, and then seeing if the display ads have an impact on email open rates and email engagement rates. So an example of that is we have one of our clients, Lexmark. They in fact saw a 200% increase in engagement through email, because in fact they had also gone through a rebranding. You know, they were originally another company acquired by Lexmark Healthcare software, and then as they did a program, a nice increase in both, as I said.
Manny,
email,
can you repeat that just
engagement.
because we got cut off for 1 second? Just the last part.
Yeah, so the point is the last part being you can combine channels and strategies. So you can actually combine an email strategy with the display ad strategy, have them both go out to, say, a specific set of target accounts. And then what you should look for, what you should expect, is that your email open rates go up and your email engagement rate goes up as a critical deliverable. And that's what, you know, any customer will want to measure, saying, okay, over the course of, say, 3 months, over a couple of email delivery cycles and then display ad being shown to those people, you can measure how these accounts did relative to, say, another set of 300 accounts. Say, let's say it's a 300 and 300. How they both did against each other.
That's cool.
Sort of relative performance.
So
that makes sense.
what's the, can you name how targeted have you been on some of these accounts? Like, have you gone to some really small, very just super targeted audiences?
Well, so let's be clear. I mean, when you do account-based advertising, there are really two key ways people do this. One is what's called the IP-based targeting. It's really around IP ranges from which those people are visiting the web from those companies. Or you can do what's called cookie targeting, which is where you really are figuring out the account, you're figuring out the contacts of those accounts, and then you're figuring out the email addresses, and then, you know, there's so-called onboarders who can match those emails, blind match those emails, and you can kind of find their cookies out on the web. And now you can serve ads to people using the cookies in their browsers, right? So that's called ABM. We call it ABM with job title targeting. So you can either do ABM that's IP targeting, or you can do ABM that's job title targeting. Job title targeting gives you greater precision, but it doesn't have the reach and the coverage of IP targeting. When we do IP targeting, what we promise customers is, look, you know, we're going to make sure your ads are being shown and served to people at the account you care about, at the location you care about. For example, you don't want to serve ads, say, to all of HP. You only want to hit HP maybe in 2 locations, say Cupertino and Fort Collins, Colorado, right? So there's some of these nuances, but the point is this. It does give them great results, but you do have to be careful with the whole selection of accounts and then picking the right strategy. But typically we find you really need to do both. You need to do IP and cookie. And with a blended strategy, you get both reach and coverage.
So IP and cookie, I'm taking some notes, are together. Those work together, or the?
They do, but typically they're set up as 2 separate what I call
Okay, but wait a minute. So is
programs.
the cookie the job title targeting? Okay, that's where I was getting.
Correct. So we have 2 programs. One we call ABM, that's IP based. The other we call it ABM, that's job title targeting. The job title targeting, what we get from the customer is the accounts they want to go after, and then the titles in those accounts they want to go after. So we then are able to figure out with data partners the emails that match those accounts and titles. And then the emails, we then do what's called a cookie match. Now, keep in mind, if you have 100,000 emails, it doesn't mean I can go after all 100,000 people through cookies. I might get like 15 to 20% match. So I can go after 15 to 20,000 of those 100,000.
Okay. Yeah, our friend Ross said, as Liam Neeson quoted, "I will find you."
Okay.
Yeah, it's and again, there are nuances to this. Some of these strategies work like cookie-based only works in North America. IP-based works globally. So if the company is trying to target other companies globally, then those B2B marketers pretty much have to go with an IP strategy.
Is how many people from a certain IP address have visited your website? No.
No.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
The web. Visiting. Yeah, it's not about them visiting your
Got it.
website
That
because they
makes
probably
sense.
aren't, majority. Yeah, but we have a way of figuring out what are the IP ranges specific to that company. And when people visit the web from those IPs, then we basically track them around the web and serve ads.
So, Manny, we talked about this at the beginning of the conversation, how account-based marketing's been around for some time, but it's going through this next phase. A lot of it is because of the technologies that are out there and the technologies that your company provides. What's the future? What's next, do you think? I mean, what should we be expecting?
Yeah, so look, I think, you have the infrastructure, the big marketing infrastructure players like an Oracle Marketing Cloud and Marketo and Salesforce, and they're not going to be sitting around. I mean, what we think is going to happen, at least my view is that accounts have traditionally been owned by CRM, meaning Salesforce. Contacts, the notion of contacts have been managed and owned by marketers in marketing automation. What we think we're going to see in the coming years, weeks, months, certainly over the next couple of years, is marketing automation tools will end up defining accounts as their own object, something that you can basically load your account straight into marketing automation, right? So they will try to be the system of record for both accounts and contacts and so forth. What that means is we think other companies will have to basically figure out areas we can help create value around the idea that accounts and contacts all live in the so-called system of record, marketing automation and CRM. Right? A lot of the innovation is going to be around continuing to more and more on this display and ad targeting. That's an area we're trying to innovate. But you're going to see the same thing happening on the website, innovations happening on website and what you can do, which is account-centric. And another big area of innovation we think is going to be around what's called orchestration. Orchestration is the whole idea that what do I know about this account and these people in those accounts? What have they done with my company, my brand today, yesterday, last week, last month? And then based on interactions I'm seeing today, what is the next best thing I need to put in front of them? So that whole idea of orchestrating these activities, it's still a big open green field.
Yeah.
Nobody has cracked it.
Well, listen, Manny, thank you so much for sharing these best practices and giving our audience some understanding and ideas of how to get started with account-based marketing. So if anyone needs or wants more information, they can reach out to Manny or someone on his team at Kwanzoo.com.
Absolutely. Kwanzoo.com, info@kwanzoo.com. We have a blog where we do a lot of writing about ABM. They're welcome to, look me up on LinkedIn. We do a lot there. And hopefully this is useful. And
thank you so much.
Doing more of this.
Great.
That's it for this episode of Marketing Mash. You can share your thoughts by following us on Twitter and Facebook. Subscribe to our podcast to keep up with the show. And of course, you can always find us by visiting themarketingscope.com.